Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Dungeoneers Pack Live, episode 2. My name is Josh. Thank you for you guys for watching. Dungeoneers Pack Live is a weekly live stream, 1 hour show where I go over the latest news in D&D that week. Excuse me. And also talk about D&D topics. Right now I'm focusing a little bit more on DM stuff, but discuss topics and find ways to actually help you with your problems. This week we're going to be talking about my issue with over-preparing sessions and how I'm leaning into improvising to solve that. So before we get started and jump into that, what I'm going to be doing is talking about what happened this week. So this week is kind of a bit of a kind of dry. So the biggest thing that's coming out is there's this big crossover between Magic the Gathering and D&D. We've seen it on the D&D side with the Strixhaven, which is Strixhaven setting that's gonna be coming out soon, and then we saw it with the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica set, and then Mythic Oddities of Theros campaign setting. So we've already had a few Magic the Gathering setting books in D&D, but now we're going to the complete opposite, and now we're gonna have D&D in Magic the Gathering in the form of cards. Even though this isn't necessarily like full-on D&D stuff, there's actually some cool stuff that's going on that Wizards is packaging together with both of these products. Obviously, the big thing is Magic the Gathering is a competitive card game, for those that are not familiar with that. But there's a lot of casual formats in order to play that setting or play that game that if you're not really wanting to play too much head-to-head or on a hyper-competitive level. But they're taking a lot of familiar things from Forgotten Realms specifically, and are putting it in a card form. And so we're gonna get a lot of like brand new D&D art, but for Magic cards. So this is just one of the pieces of art. So there's a whole thing of dungeon delving. But then they revealed a Planeswalker card, and this is Elwick Tumblestrum. This was the character that they used for that 1 week of Heroes, Summer of Heroes, where they pre-announced a bunch of stuff before the D&D live that will happen in July. So this was a character that they had. They had one of the Erica from Dice. Girls Guts Glory. Excuse me. She was cosplaying and acting as Elwick Tumblestrum. So they presented her in a card. All right, and then this week they also showed off a Paladin, a Dragonborn, that was featuring the venture mechanic, which is tied to dungeons. Obviously, it's Dungeons and Dragons, so that's they wanted to somehow include dungeons into the set. And again, a couple more cards. They got a Gloom Stalker, and it's a Dwarf Ranger. I was actually very surprised that this was a white card, because Gloom Stalker would mean darkness, so I would assume it would have been a black card. But the big thing for fans is they are the actual dungeons. So there's 3 dungeons that they've taken from D&D, which is a Tomb of Annihilation, the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and the Dungeon of the Man-Made. So these are all 5th edition dungeons. So it's going to be a lot more recent. I thought they would at least try to do some callbacks, maybe instead of Tomb of Annihilation, the Tomb of Horrors, and maybe some of the reprinted ones that were featured in the Yawning Portal book. But nope, they're all on more recent 5th edition ones. And then, but a big old throwback to classic D&D. This is a special frame that certain cards are going to be printed with the classic D&D layout, the module layout. So this one's for Reviving Wilds. This is a land. But yeah, it has this, and then there's already one being previewed as in the form of a pin, which was I believe it lets you summon goblins, but it had again the same layout, but it red instead. So they're going to be doing like alternate art cards for this, and then even more so, there's a flump, but this is for art cards. So what they've been doing lately in Magic the Gathering, since fans really love the art, they've been packaging art collector cards into them in place of tokens. But on some of these, on the back of these art cards, are going to be stats, which is going to kind of serve a dual purpose, I guess. So if you haven't bought the monster cards, and then you kind of want are also collecting and playing Magic the Gathering, you can actually use these cards in game because they're all 5th edition stats. The only thing is you're not going to have access to the abilities. It just tells you what they do. And of course, there's a bunch of other cards. Or Dritz has his card. Summoning Guinevere is Panther and some alternate art. They also got Brunor with his alternate art. Then they also have Tiamat herself. We go 5-color dragon, and then also an alternate art full frame. Some of the cards will be getting these. And then they introduced Loth. They redesigned her look specifically for Magic the Gathering, but I believe this is also going to transition into Forgotten Realms. So they got some cool art of Loth, and she is a Planeswalker. And then another full art frame card art for her. And then some classes like Vorpal Sword. You guys get the idea. And then they released all these lands with little flavors that should be callbacks to Forgotten Realms. The reason I'm bringing this up, though, because alongside this set, this coming week, they're also going to be releasing on the D&D side 5 adventures that are from levels 5 to 8. I believe they'll release one every day that we can use to play in D&D that are, I guess, may coincide with the actual story of what's going on in the Forgotten Realms Magic the Gathering set. For sure, there's going to be no Planeswalkers, no actual Magic the Gathering, pretty much lore, characters, anything in this D&D set at all. So don't expect any of those characters also to be jumping into the Forgotten Realms. So yeah, it's free content too. So this is just free adventures that it's going to equal up to 75 to 100 pages worth of stuff for free. So expect that on the Wizards site. I'm not necessarily sure if it's going to be posted on the D&D site or the Magic the Gathering site. So either way, I think it's magic.wizards.com, or if not, just check out dnd.wizards.com. We'll both have, one of them will have the adventure. Other than that, the only other news this week is Dark Alliance came out. So Dark Alliance, I managed to play it. Played it with a couple of my buddies. I'm trying to get more groups together. I kind of want to keep playing it on stream. The game is fun. It is very, very simple, very, very basic. I guess it's not a full-on tactical experience, but it's a fun game. I don't think anybody should expect any more than average from it. But yeah, so there's some updates that I heard that were going to be coming. They will be adding a new character later. Hopefully, it's a spellcaster. But yeah, expect more streams regarding or featuring Dark Alliance, and hopefully with not solo. I'm going to try to bring in people. Other than that, let's get our question of the week. That question of the week this week was due to the release of Dark Alliance. I asked you guys which settings or D&D products, like other like campaign books or something, would you like to be seen turned into a game? What would interest you guys? What would you guys pick up? So we got Dark Alliance, which is based off the Crystal Shard series from Ari Salvatore. So for me, asking that question, you guys answered Spelljammer. I always Spelljammer. Greyhawk and Dragonlance are also other ones. Omega Brighthawk said Open World Forgotten Realms, which would actually be pretty sweet. Or an RPG game with generated dungeons or an optional co-op. I could see something they would do Forgotten Realms where maybe like a dungeon crawler, maybe sort of like Diablo, where they can randomly generate. It'd probably be more action based, and not so much set up like Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is like the closest thing, but like a full on open world, maybe Grand Theft Auto-y Forgotten Realms, or Skyrim, or like the Skyrim Forgotten Realms would be pretty cool. Then Mick D. Wilson said Eberron. I would love an Eberron game. That'd be pretty sweet. Thunderwolf said Starjammer also, or Spelljammer. I'm pretty sure that's what he meant. But also in the vein of Mass Effect, that would be pretty cool. Be more like an action-based RPG, but in a third person. Obviously, you'd still need melee weapons, but like if you're playing a spellcaster that helmed a spelljammer ship, that's kind of like the character you kind of have to play. That would be pretty. All right, then again, more Eberron, Dark Sun, and Ravenloft. A Ravenloft. They did a Ravenloft game that was more like Castlevania. That would be pretty sweet. Then let's see. You got Dragonlance and Dark Sun again. Josh Davis was Spelljammer. Michael Cullen said Exandria from Critical Role. That honestly seems like a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised, like in the future, they do some sort of Critical Role video game or an Exandria video game. I could see that being a like 2D side scroller beat 'em up, like the classic D&D side scroller from Capcom, or I think the one that I had the most fun recently was the Scott Pilgrim side scroller beat 'em up. So yeah, I could see them easily doing that. And then again, of course, Spelljammer. Okay, so if you guys want to see your answers on this, just watch out for the question of the week. I normally post them either Mondays or Tuesdays. Leave your message on the community page on YouTube when you see it. If not, it's also posted on Instagram. And yeah, so you can also post it on Instagram, which is at Dungeoneer's Pack. You can get there. And yeah, and just on the YouTube, it might pop up on the Facebook, or it might pop up on the Twitter also. Twitter, it's DPackYT, and on Facebook, it's Dungeoneer's Pack YT. And that was question of the week. Thank you guys for all submitting your answers. A lot of Spelljammer. Gonna be a crime if they never release a fifth Spelljammer. All right, so we are going to be talking about setting this up. We're going to be talking about like having some tech difficulty. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Had some tech difficulties. Had something pop up where I couldn't actually my screen for you guys. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about overpreparing and improvising. So the biggest thing when it comes to overpreparing for me, it should be a crime. Up on the screen, I'm showing you my session 0/1 that I ran for my group, and this is just one section, one encounter, the intro to this campaign. And as you can see, this is everything I expected myself to read and give to everybody. So one, and highlight is conversation that they will have with certain characters. This is what they're supposed to say. So that whole white section is all descriptions and just in general getting people into, which you would think is it's an okay thing to have. Obviously when you're introducing your party into a campaign, but no, this is a lot. Just one. This isn't the full session. So again, this is just their intro. I can even go back a step here, and then back to session 0. Okay, and then we're gonna just click on the next one. Boom. This one gets a little bit easier, but as you can tell, we keep going. Everyone is set up like this, and I noticed this started to become a problem. Not so much on the first session because I was like too hyped up, trying to, we're gonna start a new campaign. I need to prepare. I need to make sure I have everything. I need to have everything. But when I found it to become a problem where I felt I was taking too long prepping sessions was right when I started getting into the dungeon design of this, or not necessarily designing, but prepping the dungeon for my group. Again, gave him a nice little recap. Basic problem was, okay, they're gonna go to the dungeon. Okay, so again, full on all this over preparing, over describing, making sure that every character kind of has a bunch of stuff that they're gonna say. That was either taken from the book, or I've added stuff to clear it out, or making sure I know where my DCs are at. And knowing how the flow of the encounter is supposed to go, with multiple options if I need them. And then when we get into the dungeon itself, the problem I had, and I realized that I am 100% over preparing for this, is that while it's nice to have the dungeon and have everything set in Notion, so that I don't really have to open my book. I just have everything right there. The click of my mouse. I retranscribed every room. So this is a 30 plus room dungeon, and every one of them with a description of what they're supposed to see and what's in there is there. That is a lot. At least for the first 3 to 4, or technically I only prepped for 2 sessions at the beginning, but those first 2 sessions where I prepped, that was like 5 hours each day that I prepped, which is, I felt it was way too long. It took too much time. The only reason I didn't have to prep, we've done 4 sessions prep, a 3rd session was mainly had to do with my group going off the rails and not actually visiting the dungeon the first. Actually, I think we've done 5 sessions. Yeah, so I didn't have to prep for 2 of them, and it's because I over prepared for this dungeon that they did not see. So the main issues I was having, what's causing me to over prepare. And while there's a lot of good advice saying that it's okay to over prepare, and it's okay to over prepare to an extent, I agree, because you could always use this stuff later, which helped out because I pretty much had 2 sessions planned out ahead of time, since my group decided to go off on a tangent on one of the sessions. They should have started this, but it takes me 5 hours to prep, and I'm retranscribing everything. So the other problem I'm having, obviously, big thing is I'm over distracted when I'm actually prepping, so that can actually cut into some time. I would normally have some sort of other form of entertainment, so I'll either have a stream off onto the side of my screen while I'm prepping this, or I have a Discord up, because I'm in the Dungeoneers Pack Discord, or in some other Discords I'm in, and just talking to other people, or I have other content creators or other YouTubers YouTube videos up as I'm watching, or just general music, something on in the background. So that definitely distracts me as I'm trying to work on this. Other things, obviously I'm over describing and trying to have as much info, and probably have too much info that it's not going to be useful for each scene. Like just for example, in this room of Baal's altar, I pretty much have word for word what the book says. Easily, I could just reference the book for this. I don't have to rewrite it for myself, but I'm rewriting it. It's not a copy and paste thing. It's nothing of that sort. It's just me having to retype everything. All right. So my general idea was I felt like I was rewriting entire scenes in short form. As you can look, I'm not rewriting anything. It's easier to read for me, seeing everything in bullets, but this is not short whatsoever. So, but it's easier for me to reference instead of looking through the book and trying to parse through paragraphs. Also, another thing that's causing problems for me overpreparing, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself because I want to give my party the best experience that they can have and have the most fun out of it. Coming out of COVID, we've been playing online a lot, and there was a sense of missed reactions and connections, and kind of just reading and feeling the energy off each other, and that was missing. So I wanted to make sure that they were going to get that experience again when we came back. And also, there's certain members of my party have never had that long campaign going from levels 1 to 20 experience, the legacy campaign, as a lot of people call it. So I wanted to make sure that they're going to get that experience, the one that I had when I played Storm King's Thunder. And then my group, the large core of our group, played Storm King's Thunder, and try to give them that experience again. We've been playing a lot of short campaigns where we end off at level 10 in between the COVID pretty much we went through at least 3 little mini campaigns during COVID. So since we're now playing back in person, everybody's has their vaccine. That's one thing I was like, okay, if I'm gonna run this game, we're gonna run a campaign book, and we're gonna go the distance. So even though the campaign ends around 14, I'm gonna see if I can push it to 20. Past that. And then also another thing is, I like to keep everything organized. I want everything in a simple place that I have access to at any point in time. Hence why I'm using Notion. Notion is a great tool, but also for me, I'm forcing myself to put everything there, and that's kind of a problem because you're having all your stuff in one place, and that means you need to take a lot of the stuff that you already have with you in another source and putting it on there. So, what exactly am I doing to change stuff? What caused me to change and actually get away from over preparing? And again, I want to reiterate, over preparing isn't necessarily a bad thing. Every DM has a different style. For me, it became a problem because I'm just spending too much time on this. I'm spending at least 5 hours prior to my session to do this. The best thing is, like, I wanted to cut down my time. That's mainly the thing, is what I was trying to do. So my general goals of why I'm trying to step away from over preparing is I want shorter time to take on this. I want to cut this down to like 1 hour, maybe 30 minutes if I can, but 1 hour is like my goal. And then another thing is I want to have shorter references. I don't need all this fluff for myself. So, and just having quick bullets about what they can expect there, maybe some DCs or anything. Just stuff, a general outline to keep me in the flow so I know where myself was, where the adventure's supposed to go. But also leaving enough room that if the party decides to not do that, I can improvise. So the biggest thing is what caused me to do this was I had one entire session, which was second session, where I had to improvise the entire thing because my party decided they weren't going to go to the dungeon. They wanted to go to the tavern. They wanted to go into their background hooks. They wanted to go see NPCs that, mind you, I had not prepared. I had not got all the information that I needed for some backstories. So the ones that I did have, I managed to kind of cobble stuff together. So the adventure started off as it should have. They were at the front gate of Baldur's Gate trying to get in. They were at the Basilisk Gate, and the hook was to get them to go inside and work for the Flaming Fist. Perfect. Everything ran as normal. And they managed to get in. The Captain Zodge, which is the leader of the Flaming Fist at this point, he gives them a hook, which was to go find information on where the villain that they're fighting, which is the Cult of the Dead 3 at this point, is hiding. So basic setup, I give you a job, go find the bad guy, go take him out. Cool. The only thing is, at the beginning of this session, they already knew where the hideout was at, because prior to, in their first session, they had a note from another a note that they picked up that gave them the direction of the location of their base, the enemy's base. But obviously, I played it. Captain Zodge doesn't know this. He just says, "Oh, go to this other NPC," which was Tarina, a pirate that hangs out in another tavern, and she'll give you a lead. While the group was dead set on just going straight to the location of the enemy base, one my buddy was like, "Wait, hold up! I need to go. I'm back in Baldur's Gate. I need to go talk to my contact, my NPC." His character's name, the NPC's name was Balthazar. It is a character that he loans money to. That my buddy's character, it's Winker, the wizard, the gravitary wizard. He has a heavy debt. So his whole goal is to find magic artifacts or other trinkets or something, collect those things, and then pay back his debt. So he goes to Balthazar. Balthazar is partly his friend. To the most part, that's how I'm playing him. But a lot of it too, he still has to collect from Winker. But the thing is, the way that relationship is set up, and it was set up on the fly. I had no idea what the character's name to begin with. I didn't know it was going to be Balthazar, and I didn't know my buddy wanted to go see him. I didn't even know that character was in Baldur's Gate. So what I did on the fly was ask him, okay, well, what's the NPC's name? Well, what's his name? And then what's the name of the store? Um, One, I did this because I didn't have anything ready to go for reference. But two, if this is my mindset is if this is important NPCs for the characters, the players that are partying, this important NPCs, and these are locations or people they're going to constantly meet, they should get to name them, and it puts them more into the world and more into the game that they're building a part of it, even if it feels it's just small. But then again, it gives me a base to build off of after that. So I do have some plans with Balthazar. Sorry, David, but I have plans. But yeah, so that's one of the big things. It's off the top, I just asked him, okay, what's the character's name? And then what's the name of the shop that you're going to? And boom, now there's a location where Balthazar exists in Baldur's Gate that Winker can go back and reference and go to talk to. Which in this last session, again, he went and did too to try to pay off some debt. So, that whole thing kind of threw the trajectory off this session. So I had to improvise the entire thing. The rest of the group went to the tavern to go wait for him. So this little side mission that I had no plans, that the book naturally wants you to go to so they can get information. The book kind of is railroady at the beginning of this thing, where you kind of just, here's the mission, go here. Here's the mission, go here. Here's the mission, go. They easily could have skipped this part, but they wanted to go. And what I did in order to kind of prep myself a little bit, I had previously read it before, so I kind of had a general vague idea of what to do. But I didn't really know what was in this tavern. So in order to help me improvise, I actually gave my group a little 5 to 10 minute break just to go get water, go to the restroom, get some snacks, and I just quickly skimmed the section on the tavern, which was the Elf Song Tavern. And then from there, I knew the basic things I picked up. They need to go meet Tarina, which was their contact. Tarina has a problem. There's a bunch of pirates that are going to come and fight her because they need to go. They've just been harassing her. And then there's a tavern owner, and there's a bunch of other people in there. Those other people aren't going to really matter. I just had I could just reference the book for those, but the main thing was meet Tarina. There's going to be a fight, tavern owner, and they want to play dice. So boom, quickly skimmed it. They came back, and immediately, I know my players like to gamble and do stuff, so I presented and said, okay, they meet the tavern owner. Tavern owner says, oh yeah, they're playing games of dice. They can see that everywhere. And if they're looking for Tarina, she's upstairs. All at the same time, managing another scene with Balthazar, having to improvise what they're doing. They played a few rounds of this dice game. I believe one of the characters at the time was Azel, a druid, star druid. She lost all her money due to this. And other characters betted, made some cash, and then the party eventually met up. And at this point, they go into the fight. And again, having to improvise the fight entirely. I just know there was a captain and there was a bunch of enemies. I didn't necessarily know what they were supposed to do, but in general, the main objective was go to Tarina, take her out. And my party completely went off the rails on that fight. This is the time where they pretty much were doing friendly fire on each other, and our wizard Winker plopped himself in the middle of the enemies, expecting to Thunderwave to try to take them all out, and he ends up getting downed anyway. So it ended up an easy fight turned into a hard fight, and then but entirely improvised. So what are the things that I use to help improvise? One, it's mainly having your tools. The biggest thing I think when people think of improvising is you need to just do stuff off the cuff. Yes, to an extent, it's more so playing off of the yes and mentality, or even then saying sometimes it's okay to say no, especially if it doesn't make sense if it's for the character or the story itself. But mainly it's the yes and mentality. But the thing about improvising is you need to have tools. but also it's not just having tools. It's knowing how to use them effectively and efficiently. So for me, the tools I had was the book. And one thing, it's just I just read really quick, so I can take the 5 to 10 minutes. But also, a big thing is take a little break. It's improvising doesn't necessarily mean doing stuff on the spot immediately to that moment. It can mean just needing to really cobble together something really quick, which was getting the basic outline of something and going from there. Or other tools DMs use, tables, random generated tables. And even then, you could still take a little break and then just roll really quick, figure out the hook, and go. Or if you know how to piece together stuff really, really quick, again, use your tables right there and then generate it really quick. And another thing was asking my characters the questions to fill in the gaps. So with my buddy David, his character Winker accruing this debt and needing to pay it off, that was the one thing I did. Ask him, well, who's this NPC he's meeting? Where's this NPC locating? Give me some basics, name him at least, and then I can take it from there. And now with just asking him those two simple questions, I was able to build a scene for him and a character now that will be remembered in this campaign. And then it's going to be the same thing for the rest of the characters. But what it allowed me to do was improvising allowed me to not necessarily railroad myself directly into this campaign and allow me to hook my players in. Part of the thing what I was seeing with Overpreparing was the game goes very linear. It's just straight line. You go from point A to B to Z. And obviously, some of this is because I want to get the party into hell. The biggest pitch I gave them regarding Avernus is, "You guys are going to hell. We're going to go fight devils and demons." So part of the intro to this is kind of getting him to that point. But it's not like you can't take the off-beaten path. So part of this improvising thing that happened in this game that was not expected. The results of this fight, they now have a boat that I'm not even sure they're going to be able to use. They pretty much this pirate captain that was coming after this NPC that was going to info dump on them, had a boat. They wiped out the entire crew. Now they have a boat. They're going to hell. I don't know if at any point they're going to be riding or using this boat. So there might be a couple sessions where they just say screw it and they don't even go to hell and they just go to sea. I don't know. But also based off of how they interacted with Tarina, who was supposed to be this really hard ass, I don't care about you kind of character. I'm dangerous. Instead, saving your life and stuff and not wanting to be around enemy pirates and putting yourself at risk, they were able to convince her, talk to her into helping them crew their ship now, this new ship that they have. So that's been like a little subplot for them. And this was all just kind of improvising off of what they were doing. Other things that help you, I would say, improvising with your characters is when you set up with your session zeros and stuff. This is like pre-planning. What helps you improvise on the spot is actually, when setting up session zeros, is getting a little bit of backstory on and information regarding the characters themselves, even if it fits on a little like 3x4 card or something like that. Getting just little information basics can help you kind of hook some stuff in. And go off the flat. I'll go like hook a character in. This has been really helpful with my brother's character. He's playing a human using the Hollowed One supernatural gift from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. There is some stuff that's now percolating and kind of like surfacing with regarding his character. That might not necessarily be alive, and I'll get to that in a bit when I go over what happened in my last session. But yeah, the big thing is I want to impart on people when it comes to improvising. It helps you be flexible, but it really comes down to your tools. The only way you're going to be able to improvise properly, or be able to improvise or seem like you have everything together, is if you have tools that you can have quick access to, but on top of that, know how to use them effectively. So mainly, the book is one tool. Like, you can have the book open. This last session, based off of like doing this. I had the book open. I referenced the book more. Um, Having your notes and not so much short notes, either with bullet points or just a general flow of what, not necessarily pre-prepping what can happen, but instead of focusing on what could happen, just general attitudes or actions and direction that a character would take is better than having an entire pre-planned adventure path. Is like, if characters do A, X is going to happen. If characters do B, Y will happen. The thing is, you're never going to know what your party's going to do. My party constantly does stuff that I don't prep for. And so it's more so having a direction of where these, or having a reaction and actions and attitudes of a character and NPC take will serve you better than if planning pretty much actions. If A happens, B will happen. Another thing is really that, yeah, that's pretty much what it'll come down to. So this is what my solutions for cutting down my over preparing and relying heavily more on improvising. One, I read the book more ahead of time to kind of give myself a better base of what to expect. I took shorter notes again, as I described. Instead of focusing on the events, I focus more on preparing and giving my just knowing the general attitudes of a character and just playing off of that. Every once in a while, the book will give you is like, well, they are destined to do this, they're expected to do this, which you can still use and leverage, but you don't necessarily have to rely heavily on it. And just because it might contradict what happened in the scene exactly. Okay. Also, I'm referencing the book a lot more. So not just I'm only reading, I'm referencing it in my notes now. I can actually, let me pull up really quick my session 4 notes, which was, again, a session that really actually didn't go as planned. So they actually, I had to improvise most of the session because the group really didn't want to go to the new dungeon yet. So, so as you can see, this is the only really notes I have for this session. So there are a couple monsters, and even then I skipped out on writing a bunch of them. This is my notes now for the encounter, that the first encounter they opened up with. So that's it. I have the enemies here, what page they're on, what I'm using to reskin them, and that's it. And on the fly, changing some damage types and stuff. They're fighting Cult of the Dragon, so I try to make this encounter a lot harder. One of the characters went down, but they actually made quick work of one of my key pieces, which helped them out, and they had the drop on these guys. So, but again, and on the fly, I just reskin this. So, Cult of the Dragon, Black Dragon using Acid. I used the stats for Skull Asher. He is able to cast spells. I changed the damage type to the spell to Acid. I used the same thing for the Blue Dragon, which is Lightning. Changed his damage type to Lightning. Poison Dragon, Green. Pretty much this Reaper of Ball is a stabby guy. I changed it to daggers that were do with poison. What's going on, Rich? Yes, this is a new camera, and I am streaming at 1080, so everything's super clean. My internet can handle 1080. Thank you for stopping by, buddy. And again, so on and so forth. Just reskinning all these characters, having a quick reference. I don't have any of the stats. This is all the notes I have for this one encounter, and that's it. Luckily, and the thing is, it's so short because this is just a fight. The Cult of the Dragon were looking for Tiamat's treasure hoard, and they know the party has it based off of some like magical essence. And then the next part of the session, Lowlight Tavern. This one's a little bit more intensive, but compared to how I had everything set up, this is still all the notes. All the other notes for the rest of the other sessions, they go farther down. This is just giving me basic ideas of what to do. Quick description of what they can find in the base of this area. Some of the patrons in the bar, quick description of them with some attitudes, and then quick descriptions of the rooms, of what they can actually just see, or if there's any traps or if there's any enemies in there. And that's really it. At this point, the reason I have this in there is I can quick reference this, and if they're going to go more in depth, I'll have the book with me on the side, and I can just go through the book But since I have the bullet points, this is really all they're going to see. These are only things that are important. A lot of the other fluff I don't have to reference or even have to look at. And again, if there's any enemies in there, I'll just label as what they are, and then I can just go reference the book. Sometimes I have a page there next to it, and then enemies in general, I have them listed as like which one's in which, so I can always just scroll down and be like, oh, if they're in room L4, boom, there's gonna be this L5, same thing, L6, all these enemies. So if any of my players are watching chat, there's a little spoilers of what you guys will probably fight. And again, dealing with one of the NPCs right there. And that's it. And that's pretty much all. And then another section, which is again very short. So I cut my prep time down from 5 hours, 2 hours just doing this. And the reason it took me just a little bit longer is because again, I have distractions in the background. I was still talking. My fiance was talking to me, catching me up on stuff, and I was also working on this. And then I had music and stuff in the background. But easily, this changed from this 5 hour session prep of having all these intricate notes. I managed to condense it. I am more confident now that in the next few sessions I can get this down to 1 hour, easily if I just turn some stuff off. But yeah, this is it. And Notion still is a valuable resource because depending on the NPCs, like they're eventually going to meet up with another NPC. I don't have really too much set out here, but let me show a better example of the NPC that I need to. General personalities, just general information I can pull personality and information from, and then at this point I had a stat block. I'm not even putting the stat block in there anymore. If it's in the book, I'll just mark the page and just reference it. And again, it's Captain Zodge. This is another guy that they're meeting. And again, personality, I can quick reference. He's self-centered, opportunistic, but he actually cares about his soldiers. I can just play off that. All right. So, with that said, we got the last 12-10 minutes of the stream. So, I'm just going to do a recap of what happened in my party's game. So, they're gonna help me actually reference it. When we left off, they had just finished the dungeon, the first dungeon in Descent of Avernus, which is the dungeon of the Cult of the Dead 3. It is located under a bathhouse that is owned by the Van Thamper family. Lamra Van Thamper is a member of the Council of Four, the highest governing body of Baldur's Gate, and she's trying to make a play for Grand Duke, because the Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate is missing because he was sent to Elturel, and at the time he was in Elturel as it got swept away into Avernus. So she's trying to make a play. She's been funding, and this is something all my party knows, so it's not spoilers. She's been funding. The party had just recently found out that her family, she has been funding the Cult of the Dead 3, so to cause havoc in Baldur's Gate to make the Flaming Fist look terrible, and so that she could make a power play and take over as Grand Duke. So they had just wrapped up this dungeon. They met with her. They found her youngest son, Mortlock, who had been double crossed by his brothers and by essentially his mother, and was being attacked by the Cult of the Dead 3. He dumps all this info on the party for all the information, and he heads off on his own way. I leveled the party up to level 3. The last fight that they had there and going through the entire dungeon, it was really, really rough for them. So I gave them a bone, gave them the level 3, so that the next fight I can give them would be an actually harder fight. So what ended up happening is the party kind of split. So, and the reason the party split was the main members of the party that were there for the session, they progressed through the dungeon, fought the main bad guy of that. Well, I had other members of the party who weren't there at the session break away and said they were watching their flank and making sure the cult didn't show up. So the rest of the main party that was there from the last session traverses back up to the top, not realizing that the other party members that were watching the flank are not there. They get back up to the top of the bathhouse. As they get closer to the door, they hear one of the other party members having an argument with voices they don't recognize. This was Jeb. He didn't make it to the last session because he was out of town. So what I had it set up for him was like, oh, okay, they were watching the flank, but then they were having this argument with these pretty much their enemies at this point. The party realizes that it's Jeb that's being that's sitting there being confronted, but they also hear another character that is now no longer in the campaign. Azel had been just beaten. He's groaning on the floor. So I'm thinking my party is either gonna, the way that the encounter set up, it was gonna be a little bit more social before they go into the fight. My party, I should know better. They are very combat oriented. So the wizard, of all people, kicks the door down and immediately blasts, sends a psychic blast to the enemy. Well, as soon as they kick the door down, they realize it's 5 members of the Cult of the Dragon. Each of them having a different color mask. So he targets the one with the red. So pretty much, they look like Power Rangers enemies with dragon heads, and that initiates combat. So what ends up happening, I roll pretty well on some of my 2 spellcaster guys, which were the green and black. No, the red and, or no, not the red and black. The blue and black dragons. And then I also rolled really well for my green dragon, which was my rogue. So at the start of combat, pop my rogue into stealth, have him hide. He's going to go target the wizard, and then have my 2 spellcasters go in and target their big guy, because the big guy's going to struggle with. I had them target Alar, which was one of our fighters. He chose Rune Knight, and target him immediately because he's the big guy, and they're spellcasters, so he's going to struggle. The basic idea of this fight was to kind of give them a counterparty a bit, but without giving them a full these Cult of the Dragon members, without giving them a full stat block of them using actual character classes. By them getting the drop on them, this actually puts the fighter in their favor. The original idea was they were going to come out, be confronted, realize that they have Tiamat's treasure on them, and then the cult was going to attack them. But since I got the drop on them, they heavily put the fighter in the favor. They were actually able to take out the red dragon, the lead, in like 2 rounds. And pretty much after they dropped him, instead of going away and just dying, I want to use him later. So he, in a burst of flame, he was called back. As the fight progresses, what they end up finding out that the Cult of the Dragon were sent by Archon the Cruel. And for those that aren't familiar with Archon, he appeared. He's Joe Manganiello's Dragonborn character. He's appeared in a number of live streams, but most notably, he appeared at the end of Critical Season or Campaign 1 when they were fighting Vecna, and he took the hand of Vecna from them. So, based off the timeline and stuff, Archon the Cruel should have the hand of Vecna in Avernus. So anyway, he was sent by them because Tiamat is ordering them to return the Dragon Horde. The Cult of the Dead 3 was stealing their stuff. So, they end up finding that out, take all their stuff, get some contraband, and then just remove the cult. My party's pretty ruthless. They'll take prisoners to get information, and then they'll just off them right after that. What's really reinforcing this mentality, too, is that the Flaming Fists generally don't care and gave them a license to kill. So, that's what they've been doing. 2 of the members are actual Flaming Fists, so they already have that mentality. The rest of them aren't. After wiping them out, they head back to their boat to rest, because the fight did hurt a few of them. And they find out Tarina is there. It's the dead of night, and he had set up stuff for them, and they casually go to. Then they just rest. When they wake up in the morning, they realize there is a crew actually there setting the boat up for them. So at any point in time they want to go, they can. This is a point where the end of information that they needed to go after when I prepped for the session was for them to go see Amric at the Lowlight Tavern. So Mortlock at this time told him, hey, go take out my brother. You need leverage to handle my mother. Her favorite son's my brother Amric. Go handle him, take care of him, do whatever you can, but use him as leverage before you go face my mother, because my mother has a lot of political pull. So me thinking I have this session prep, they're going to go immediately rest, then go straight to the tavern and have a really hard fight. They're going to go that. No, my party derails and says, we need potions, we need gear, and then Winker's like, I need to go see my contact, my NPC. So the session ended up turning into a really long shopping. So Luckily, they turned in all their gear. They turned in all the contraband they had with Order of the Gauntlet because I set up the Order of the Gauntlet in a hideout in Baldur's Gate. The character Azel is now with the Order of the Gauntlet, and I shipped her off because the player wanted to play a new character, and I introduced his Goblin Rogue, Arcane Trickster Rogue, to the party in the previous session. So instead of having him do 2 characters, now his other character's off, and not wanting to kill it off. That set it off. So if he ever wants to return to this character in another campaign, the option's there. And then there's just a big shopping montage. They got potions because the party is really light on healers. They got a potion of giant strength. I introduced a Order of the Gauntlet potion maker. That's halfling that they've been enjoying interacting with. I believe his name is Tebble Tehil now. That is his name. And other than that, that's pretty much what happened with the session. By the end of the session, actually, no, that's not what happened. They continue to get armor. I put a little Easter egg in there from a previous campaign, from a long previous campaign when we started. I had a character called Calrock. He was a half-orc fighter. His stats were terrible. I ended up sunsetting him because I didn't really have a character to play. Really, he wasn't really a character. He was just a mechanic to learn the game. And but I wanted to just kind of give a nod to the players, and they meet this half-orc blacksmith, this is where they bought a lot of their armor. And then he has a son, a little half-orc son that they also meet that's helping them put their armor on. End up asking him, and then they were like, okay, what's his name? And then I drop his name. He's Calrock. And it was a nice little moment for my party because the ones that realized are like, oh, that's what happened to this guy. And so it was just nice seeing that. It was cool seeing that my character still, even though he was kind of trash back in the day, that they were like glad that they saw him. It was some them as a player that they were familiar with, and not necessarily their characters will be familiar with. So I have a feeling that character will continue to come back, and they will continue to go to shop at his store. Other than that, the other thing was they met with Captain Zaj. The reason they had to meet with him was to give a report regarding the cult, regarding the dungeon. But there's this little plot thread that's going around with my brother's character, Avden, the fighter. Captain Zaj cannot see him. Certain members in the Flaming Fist or when they're out in the public cannot see this character. And it's been in character and out of character. It's been confusing the players why my brother's character is showing up and he can't be seen. Zaj pays them off. Very simple. Then they go back to the boat and question my brother's character. They end up finding out my brother's character is dead. It's a ghost. Upon hearing the name of Zariel on an info dump, my brother had flashes of history, and I'm going to leave those secret. But to some scenes, so he's starting to remember something. But part of the thing when they were questioning him, he had a picture of his family. I had my players do some investigation checks to see that, and history checks and arcana checks to kind of see the nature of this picture. They realized it was ethereal, so it's not an actual paper, but even then, the paper itself is aged, and in the image that is drawn, there's Elturel in the background, but it's underdeveloped. There's not a lot of... it looks really, really dated. And then, so they end up realizing, and they're starting to put the pieces together that my brother's character definitely isn't alive, and he might not even be from the same time period. And that's where we ended the session off. So next session, they will be going to go confront Amric, and then also following up on some other leads and eventually heading to Candlekeep. But so yeah, so we're having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun as a DM. I'm having more fun as a DM than I thought I would. I tend to like being a player, and obviously with Dungeoneers Pack, the channel is a player-focused channel. But I'm having a lot of fun DMing, and I will continue to give you guys an update on going on with this. Next week, I don't necessarily know what topic we're going to talk about. It might be a player-centered topic, so well, who knows? Other than that, again, thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Thank you, Rich, for showing up. If you haven't caught it, I just posted a video on a character build video using the Hexblood lineage from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft and pairing it with the Swashbuckler Rogue. and it's a Booming Blade build. One build that I've been wanting to play, and this is a character that I would play. And the Hexblade lineage finally nicely gives me that little story, that story bit I was missing for this character build. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a fun build. Other than that, next week expect the next coming week very Strixhaven heavy videos. So I'm gonna actually cover this UA now, and then give you guys not just basic rundown of after having some time with it of what my thoughts are, but also how to actually use these subclasses in different settings and ways to just reflavor it. So I'm starting off with the Lorehold one, and then I'm just gonna go down the list after that. Again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week. I may or may not pop up again live later with some some Dark Alliance. So keep an eye. I'll keep an eye on the in the Discord or on Twitter, and I will notify if I go live again, or just keep an eye on the community page. Also, again, keep an eye on the community page for the question of the week. I'll be posting them there and on the Instagram. And just leave your answers there if you guys want to see those featured. I love seeing your guys' answers. I think this coming week it'll be a different, not so much asking you what kind of setting you guys want. So expect it. I think Tuesday. I need a couple days. I need to really see what to ask you guys, because I like Spelljammer, but you guys really like Spelljammer. All right. So other than that, so next time, guys, easiest way to support the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe on every video. And it really helps put it out into the algorithm. You want to support the channel directly, Dungeoneers Pack at Patreon. And you can check out on all the socials, Dungeoneers Pack YT on Facebook, Dungeoneers Pack on Instagram, and DPack YT on Twitter. And if you want to continue talking about everything, what we discussed here in this live stream, or you guys want to talk about your games, your characters, you need help with character builds, etc., Dungeoneers Pack Discord, you can find me there, and there's a nice growing community that are willing to more than help out with any building, any problems, or just want to talk about D&D there. So again, thank you guys for coming, and you guys have a good one.